My name is Mark. I'm 34. I live in Asheville, North Carolina, and I run a small but growing motorcycle repair shop on the edge of town. I've always liked machines more than people. Engines make sense. You hear a sound, find the source, fix it. People? Not so much. Especially not the one you marry thinking she'll be your safe place, only to find out she's someone else entirely. We've been married 7 years. Her name's Rachel. She's 32, works as a wedding planner, which is ironic now, given everything. We met at a friend's engagement party, hit it off fast. She was confident, sharp, funny in a way that made people want to stand closer when she talked. I fell for her within a month. Proposed after 11. Everyone said it was too soon, but she said yes, and that was enough for me. Back then, it felt like we were building something real. She helped me paint the garage I rented when I first started out. Sat on a milk crate reading emails while I worked on bikes. We used to share coffee from a chip thermos, pass it back and forth like some cliche out of a song. I thought we were in this together. Things started to shift about 8 months ago. She got promoted, bigger clients, destination weddings, higher budgets. She started flying out more. LA, New York, sometimes Miami. I didn't complain. I was proud. Told everyone my wife was booking luxury events. When she came home tired, I cooked. When she wanted space, I gave it. I thought that was love. I thought that's what husbands were supposed to do. But then the calls started getting shorter. She stopped sending photos from her trips. Stopped calling me babe in texts. Little things too small to make a scene about, but big enough to keep me up at night. The night everything broke? That was a Tuesday. I just closed the shop early, slow day, rainy, no shows. I stopped by the grocery store to grab something for dinner and noticed her car. That caught me off guard. She'd told me she was in Charleston for a conference. I figured maybe she came home early to surprise me. My heart actually picked up, like some idiot in a movie. I even smiled. Until I saw her. She was walking out of the wine aisle with a man I'd never seen before. Tall, sharp suit, way too polished for our town. She laughed at something he said, touched his arm, that light kind of touch you only use when you want it to mean something. My feet didn't move. I stood frozen near the checkout, holding a bag of pasta and a bottle of cheap marinara like some forgotten extra in their scene. They didn't see me. I watched them walk to the self-checkout, him carrying the wine, her leaning into him like he was the one she'd build a life with. I didn't confront her. Not there. Not yet. I followed them instead. Not proud of it, but I had to know. They drove to the house we used to rent before we bought our current one. She always said she missed it. Said it felt more us than the new place. I parked down the street, waited, watched the lights flicker on in the living room, watched silhouettes cross the window, watched my marriage end in slow motion. She kissed him. I didn't need to see anything else. I drove home, parked in the driveway, and sat there for 2 hours. Rain tapped the windshield like it was trying to fill the silence. I stared at the porch light she always insisted we leave on, said it made the house feel warm when we came home late. Ironic, right? The woman who needed a light to feel at home had found someone else to walk into the dark with. When she came home later, close to midnight, her hair was damp. Her makeup was gone. She smelled like someone else's cologne. And she lied. Delayed flight, she said. Long day. I nodded and said nothing. Because in that moment, I wasn't ready for the truth I already knew. The next morning was colder than it should have been for late April. I remember that because Rachel was shivering slightly when she came into the kitchen, still wrapped in her robe, rubbing her arms like she hadn't slept. Maybe she hadn't. I knew I hadn't. I laid awake the whole night replaying that moment in the grocery store like it was on loop. Her fingers on his arm, the curve of her laugh, the way she leaned into him like she belonged there. She made coffee. Same routine as always. Measured the grounds too carefully, poured the water slow. Like ritual made things real. She asked if I wanted toast. I said no. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. You okay? Yeah. Just tired. I couldn't look at her too long. I was afraid something would crack open inside me and spill all over the floor. So I went to the shop early. Told her I had a client with a bad starter motor. A lie. No one was coming in that morning. I just needed space. I just needed to be somewhere she hadn't touched. I sat on the cold metal stool behind the workbench and stared at the old Yamaha I'd been working on for a week. I didn't touch it. Didn't even grab a tool. I just sat there trying to remember the last time Rachel had looked at me the way she looked at him. It wasn't just the cheating. That word's too small. Too neat. It was everything underneath it. The lies. The effort it took to create a second life, the ease with which she walked into it, and the fact that she didn't even hesitate when she lied to me. She came home late again that Thursday, said the venue tour in Charleston ran long, said she had to stay for dinner with a bride's mother. I said nothing. I didn't ask questions. I didn't want to give her the chance to lie again, not because I was protecting her, but because I didn't want to hear how easy it had become for her. Instead, I started paying attention. Her phone buzzed a lot more lately, but she always flipped it over when I was nearby. She used to leave it face up, even hand it to me to reply to texts for her. Not anymore. Now it lived in her purse or face down on the nightstand. When she showered, she took it with her. Always. I noticed the new perfume, not hers, something bolder. The kind of scent that lingers in cars, on jackets, on pillowcases. And then there were the clothes. Tight dresses that still had tags on them, heels I hadn't seen before. A lacy bra I knew I hadn't bought. When I asked about it, casually, like I wasn't choking on the words, she smiled and said, treating myself. I deserve it. She did, but not like that. That weekend, she had a wedding in Raleigh. Said she'd be gone 2 nights. I offered to drive her to the airport. She said she already booked a car. I offered to pack snacks, our little tradition. She kissed my cheek and said, "That's sweet, babe, but I'll be fine." I nodded and watched her leave. And 5 minutes later, I grabbed my keys and followed her. I didn't have a plan. I didn't even know if I could do it, trail her like I was in some bad movie. But something in me needed to see, needed to know. Because part of me, the dumb, hopeful part, still believed maybe I was wrong. Maybe the man at the grocery store was a client. Maybe the kiss I thought I saw was a shadow. Maybe everything I thought was breaking was just in my head. But hope dies quietly when the truth gets loud. I followed her to a hotel on the edge of town, not the airport. And then I watched her meet him again. Same man, same look in her eyes. They walked inside together, and I sat in my truck gripping the steering wheel, staring at the revolving doors like they'd swallowed the woman I loved whole. I don't remember much of the drive back, just the feeling like I was underwater. The world looked the same, but I wasn't in it anymore. I wasn't in my life. I was floating above it, watching this man in a truck, me, drive home while the woman he loved disappeared into a hotel with someone else. When I got home, the lights were still on. Her coat was gone from the hook, her slippers by the door. I stood in the entryway for a while, not moving. My keys dangled from my hand, useless. There was something so ordinary about the way the house smelled, detergent and her lemon candles. So ordinary it made me want to scream. I didn't sleep that night. I laid in our bed, staring at the ceiling, the covers pulled over me like they were supposed to mean something. Her side was cold. She wouldn't be back till Sunday. I told myself I should be grateful for the space, for the time to think. But all I did was break in silence. I thought about calling someone, my brother, maybe, or Mason, the only guy who's worked in my shop longer than a year. But I couldn't find the words. How do you say that? She's cheating. I followed her. I saw everything. It felt weak, small, like admitting I'd failed at the one thing I thought I had right. Saturday morning I got up early, made coffee, stared out the window at the trees in our yard, the same ones we planted when we bought the house. She wanted cherry blossoms, said they'd make spring feel softer. I watched the petals scatter in the breeze like a joke. I walked into the garage, started working, anything to get out of my head. Around noon, Rachel texted me. Ceremony just wrapped. Gorgeous couple. Can't wait to tell you about it. She sent a photo of a bouquet. Filtered. Too perfect. I didn't reply. I stared at the screen for a long time. I wanted to throw it, smash it, or maybe drive back to the hotel, walk right into the lobby, find their room and knock. But I didn't, because I didn't know what I'd do after that. Instead, I fixed a clutch for a client who thought his bike was done for. I bled my knuckles. I worked until my back screened. I went home, heated leftovers, ate alone. And when I laid down in bed again that night, I opened the drawer on her side. There were receipts, tiny clues I'd ignored for months. Dinner at places we'd never been, 2 glasses of wine, hotel bills, names I didn't recognize. She hadn't even bothered to hide them. Or maybe she thought I'd never look. She didn't know I'd already seen everything that mattered. Sunday evening, she came back, rolled her suitcase and like nothing happened, hugged me from behind while I stood at the sink. "Missed you," she said. And I just stood there, holding a dirty plate in my hands, wondering how much of my life had been scripted, wondering if she even knew how easily she lied now. "I missed you too," I whispered. Lie for a lie. The next week passed like I was stuck in a film I didn't audition for. Everything moved, people spoke, but none of it reached me. Rachel came home every night, made dinner twice, even lit those little candles she only brought out when she felt guilty or nostalgic. She touched my arm more, kissed me on the forehead when I left for the shop. She laughed louder than usual, like if she performed hard enough, she could will the lie away. But I saw it all now. Every gesture looked choreographed. Every smile had cracks in it, and I was becoming someone I didn't recognize. I started sleeping in short bursts, waking at 3 a.m. with my heart racing like I'd heard something. Sometimes I'd check her phone when she was in the shower, but she'd gotten smarter. No messages, no recent calls. Wiped clean. It was almost impressive, the precision of it all. As if I was the only one trying to hold on to the version of us that had already died. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to see how long she'd keep pretending. Maybe I wanted her to tell me the truth without being forced. Maybe I was afraid of the finality, the moment you say it out loud and there's no turning back. Wednesday night she came home early with takeout and a bottle of red, the kind we used to drink back when things were simple. She kicked her shoes off and dropped onto the couch next to me. "I've been thinking," she said, curling her feet under her. "We should go away next month, just us. A weekend in the mountains or something." I looked at her, studied her face. She looked tired, not physically, just worn, like keeping all this up was starting to erode something. "Sure," I said. I didn't mean it. I didn't plan on going anywhere, because by then, I'd already made a decision. I'd hired someone, a guy named Troy, Mason's cousin, works security for hotels, does freelance tech stuff on the side, discreet, professional. I met him behind the shop, handed him a folder of names, addresses, dates. I didn't tell him the whole story, just enough to make it clear I wasn't looking for revenge. Just proof. I needed confirmation. Something I could hold in my hand when the truth came out of her mouth and tried to disguise itself again. Troy nodded, said he'd need a few days. That Friday, Rachel said she had another wedding downtown. An old client. Nothing fancy. She'd be home late. I kissed her goodbye. Watched her drive off. Then I sat in the kitchen for a long time with the lights off, just staring at my reflection in the window. I didn't feel angry. I didn't even feel sad anymore. Just hollow. Like I'd already lost her months ago, and now I was just waiting for her to realize it too. That night, Troy texted me 3 words. "You were right." Attached was a photo. Her. And him. Outside a bar we used to go to. His hand on the small of her back. Her head tilted toward him. That smile, the one I hadn't seen in a long, long time. And just like that, the last thread of hope inside me snapped. The lie wasn't accidental. She'd chosen it. I stared at that photo for a long time. My phone screen dimmed twice, and I tapped it back on each time like I couldn't let it go dark. Like the truth might disappear if I looked away. It didn't. Her face stayed frozen in that little smile. His hand still rested on her waist like it belonged there. They looked comfortable. That's what got me. Not the kiss, not the closeness, but the ease of it. Like this wasn't new. Like it had become their routine. When she came home that night, close to midnight, I was already in bed pretending to sleep. I kept my breathing even, eyes closed, body still. She changed quietly, brushed her teeth, slid into bed beside me like she wasn't carrying another man's sin on her skin. She whispered good night, like it was owed. And I lay there, wide awake, hearing every inch of silence between us stretch into something that would never go back to normal. The next morning, she made pancakes. She only ever made pancakes when she was trying to soften something, like when she forgot my birthday 2 years ago, or when she snapped at my mom during Christmas dinner. I cut into them, ate slowly, nodded along while she talked about a client's meltdown over centerpieces. I barely heard a word, just watched her lips move and wondered how many lies they'd told me lately. I went to work, didn't get much done, just stood in the back of the shop cleaning the same wrench for half an hour. I checked my phone 3 times. No messages. I didn't expect one. That afternoon, I printed the photo Troy had sent me, tucked it into a book I knew she'd never read, some hardcover she bought for aesthetics and never cracked open. I slipped it between the pages and put it back on the shelf. I didn't know why I did it. Maybe I wanted her to find it one day when she wasn't pretending anymore. Maybe I wanted to leave something behind for her guilt to trip over. Sunday came. She suggested we go for a walk downtown, maybe grab coffee. I said I wasn't feeling great. She looked disappointed but didn't push it. Went alone instead. Wore that new blue coat, the one I hadn't seen until last month, tag still dangling from the sleeve. I remember thinking it looked expensive. I also remembered I hadn't bought it. While she was gone, I stood in the kitchen and finally let myself fall apart. Not loud, not messy, just a quiet, exhausted kind of collapse. My hands on the counter, head bowed, tears I didn't see coming. The kind of crying you do when your body's done holding things in. When your heart finally gets tired of pretending. She came home with 2 coffees. Kissed the top of my head as she passed me one. "You okay?" she asked, noticing my eyes. I nodded. "Just tired," I said again. That was the new version of me now, always tired. Not from work, from her. Monday came like it always does, too early, too loud. She left before me, claiming she had a venue tour and a meeting with a florist after. She kissed my cheek out of habit. I felt nothing. Just skin touching skin. A movement with no meaning. I walked into the shop that day with a decision sitting in my chest like a loaded gun. I wasn't going to hold it in much longer. I was done watching. Done pretending I didn't know. I just wanted to hear it from her mouth once. A single admission. Not for closure. Not even for peace. Just because I needed to look her in the eyes and see if she was still capable of telling the truth. I went home early that evening. Cleaned the kitchen. Put on music like I used to when we cooked together. She came in around 7, surprised to see the lights on and me standing at the stove. "Wow," she said, dropping her bag. "What's the occasion?" "No occasion," I said, stirring the pot. "Just figured we hadn't eaten together in a while." She smiled. That same half-smile she used when she was trying to read the room. Dinner was quiet. She complimented the pasta. I nodded. Asked about her day. She gave me a neat little breakdown. Nothing too specific, just vague enough to sound real. Venue was great. Florist a bit scattered. Bride stressed out. All believable. All fake. After we cleared the plates, I poured us each a glass of wine. She raised hers to her lips, and I waited until the silence stretched enough to be noticed. "Can I ask you something?" I said. She set the glass down, slower than usual. "Of course. How's New York?" Her eyes blinked slow, like she was buffering. "What? You said you were flying there last week. Wedding conference, right?" She nodded too quickly. "Yeah. It was great." "Why?" "No reason," I said. "Just didn't see any hotel charges on the card." She hesitated, then smiled. "I paid with the corporate card. The agency covers that stuff." I nodded again. Sipped my wine. Let the lies settle into the room like cigarette smoke. "What's his name?" I asked next. Calm. Quiet. Her hand froze around the stem of the glass. "What?" "The guy," I said. "What's his name?" Her eyes didn't move. She stared at me like she was calculating. Not panicking, just measuring. Like she was deciding which version of herself to use. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said. I reached into the pocket of my hoodie, pulled out the folded printout, set it gently on the table. She didn't touch it, but she saw it. And her face, it didn't crumple. It didn't fall apart. It just dropped. The performance ended. She didn't deny it. Didn't say it was innocent. Didn't ask who took the photo. She just sat back, breathed in through her nose, and said, "His name is Dylan." And there it was. The truth. For syllables. And I felt like I'd been punched in the chest by a fist I saw coming the whole time. She looked down when she said his name. Not in shame and calculation. Like she was figuring out how much of the truth to give me. I stayed quiet. I wanted to see how far she'd go now that the curtain was down. "How long?" I asked. She ran her finger around the rim of the wine glass, stalling. "A few months." "Define a few." She sighed. 5. Maybe 6. I stared at her, and something inside me cracked. Not loud, not sharp, just a slow internal shift, like old wood giving way under pressure. "Were you ever going to tell me?" I said. She looked at me like I'd asked the wrong question. "I didn't plan any of this," she said. "It just happened." I almost laughed. That phrase. It just happened. Like love is an accident. Like hotel rooms and lies and a new perfume are just gravity doing its job. "You lied to me," I said. "Over and over. You kissed me and said, 'I love you' after being in his bed. You came home to this house. To me." "I know. Do you?" I asked. "Because you're sitting here acting like it was a slip. Like it was a mistake you tripped into." Her eyes finally filled with something. Not tears, but a flicker of regret. Or maybe just discomfort. She looked away. Picked at a piece of skin on her thumb like that detail suddenly mattered more than anything between us. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I stood up, paced toward the sink, then leaned on the counter, my back to her. "I followed you, Rachel." Silence. "I saw you with him. At that hotel." You weren't rushing out of some mistake. You looked happy. I turned to her then. Her face was pale. She wasn't crying. Just still. He's not a fling, I said. She shook her head slowly. No. And there it was. My wife was in love with someone else. Not in a flirty text kind of way. Not in a mistake in the dark kind of way. In the kind of way that changes futures. I don't even know who you are anymore, I said. She didn't fight that. Didn't beg. Didn't promise anything. She just whispered, neither do I. And suddenly I understood. She hadn't just left me. She'd left herself, too. The next morning came without a word. No apologies. No late-night breakdown. No sitting on the edge of the bed whispering regrets. We both slept in silence. Or at least pretended to. I lay with my back to her, staring at the window, watching the shadows of tree branches crawl along the wall like they had something to say. She got up first, showered, dressed in the bathroom. I heard the closet door creak, the sound of a suitcase being unzipped. Not the big one, the small one. The I'll be gone for a few days one. She came into the kitchen while I was making coffee, said nothing at first, just stood by the counter, folding a charger cord in that neat, practiced way of hers. Her face was calm, unreadable, too calm, like this had already played out in her head a dozen times, and she was just following the script. I'll stay at Lila's for a bit, she said. I nodded, didn't look at her. I just stirred sugar into the coffee that suddenly tasted like ash. She knows? I asked. Just that we're having problems. I snorted. Is that what you call it? She flinched. Just a flicker. Then silence again. She grabbed her suitcase. Her purse. Paused near the door like she expected something else. A plea, maybe, or anger. But I had nothing left. She'd taken everything that used to rise in me when I looked at her. There was no fight, no shout, no desperate last-minute kiss. Just air between us and all the things we didn't say. I'll text about the rest of my stuff, she said. I nodded. And then she left. No slam of the door. No sob. Just the soft click of the latch and the quiet that followed. I stood in the hallway after she was gone, staring at the empty spot where her shoes used to be. It felt like the house had already started to forget her. Like the walls were sighing in relief. I thought it would break me, that moment, seeing her go. But it didn't. It felt like watching a stranger leave a hotel room. I made it through most of the day without falling apart. Did dishes. Vacuumed. Even folded a load of laundry she'd started the day before. Her sweater was in it. The one I always thought looked best on her. I didn't fold it, just held it for a second, and then stuffed it into the bottom drawer. Around sunset, I sat on the porch with a beer and let the ache catch up to me. Not the loud kind. The dull, slow kind that settles in your chest and wraps itself around your lungs. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat there thinking about how people can vanish from your life while standing right in front of you, and how you don't even feel them leave until they stop lying to stay. The house didn't feel like mine after she left. Not because she took anything. Most of her stuff was still here. Clothes in the closet, her hairbrush on the bathroom sink, a half-used bottle of shampoo with her name on it still sitting in the shower like she was planning to come back and finish it. But that wasn't what I meant. It was the air, the way it moved, the way the quiet settled in like dust after an explosion. She was gone, and yet it felt like she was still everywhere, echoing in the cabinets, the hallway, the spot on the couch where she used to curl up with her knees under that damn blanket. I sat in the living room for hours the next day. No music, no TV, just silence. My phone buzzed once, Mason asking if I was good. I didn't respond. I couldn't. What would I say? My wife is in love with someone else and left like she was going to the grocery store? I looked at her contacts in my phone and stared at the word, Rachel. I didn't delete it. I didn't change it. I just stared at it like maybe something would come alive and explain to me what the hell just happened. But it never did. The worst part? I didn't even miss her the way I thought I would. I missed who she used to be, or maybe who I thought she was. I missed the version of her that showed up in our first year together, sitting on the floor eating Chinese takeout and laughing about wedding playlists. The version that fell asleep on my chest in the middle of movies. The woman who helped paint the shop's waiting room with that stupid mint green color she insisted was welcoming. That woman was gone. She'd left long before I caught her. And what was left behind, this colder, sharper version of her, was just pretending. I found the picture again, the one Troy had taken. I stared at it, studied it, tried to find anything in her face that looked like hesitation. There wasn't. Her whole body language leaned into him like she belonged there, like I was just a memory she hadn't deleted yet. That night, I walked into my bedroom and stood at the edge of the bed. Her pillow was still fluffed, her blanket folded neatly. She always did that, even if she was running late. Like her side of the bed mattered more if it looked right. I grabbed the pillow and chucked it into the hallway. Then the blanket. Then the candles from her nightstand. The framed photo of us from our second anniversary shattered. I didn't scream. I didn't even breathe heavy. I just cleared the space. Not out of rage. Out of survival. Because the hardest part of being betrayed isn't what they did. It's realizing they stopped choosing you long before they left. It took a week before I saw her again. She texted twice. Once to say she was staying longer at Lila's. Once to ask if she could swing by for some clothes. I didn't answer either. Then, on a Thursday morning, I pulled into the shop late, had a bad night, didn't sleep. Mason was already there, running diagnostics on a Harley that came in Tuesday. I nodded at him, grabbed a coffee from the back fridge, and tried to lose myself in work. But around noon, I looked up from under the hood of a Ducati and saw her. Rachel, standing just outside the glass door of the office, looking in like she wasn't sure if she should come inside or run the other way. She was dressed simple, jeans, black sweater, hair tied back. No makeup. Or at least not the kind she used to wear when she was trying to impress someone. I walked out of the bay, wiped my hands, opened the door. We stood there in silence for a beat. Then she spoke. I didn't think you'd be here this early. I shrugged. Didn't think you'd come without warning. I didn't know if you'd let me if I asked. You're probably right. She looked down at the floor, then back up at me. I just need a few things. Closet's still full. She nodded. Started to turn away, but I didn't move. I saw you again, I said. She stopped. Her back stiffened. Just a little. Where? Last night. Not in person. Just the photo. I looked at it again. She turned slowly, her eyes searching mine. And, I don't know. I guess I thought I'd feel something different. Anger. Pain. Something new. And what did you feel? Nothing. She winced. Mark. No. Don't explain. You already did that. You gave me his name. Remember? You gave me months, locations, silence. What else is there? I thought I loved you, she said softly. I really did. I know. And I don't know when that stopped. You do, I said. You just don't want to say it. She nodded. Slowly. Like someone accepting a diagnosis. Then she asked, do you hate me? I thought about that. Actually thought about it. Not for drama. Not for effect. No, I said. But I don't trust anything you ever said to me again. She blinked fast. Her mouth opened like she wanted to say something more. But I walked back inside and left her standing there with her hands in her pockets and nothing left to take. A few days after she showed up at the shop, I came across her journal. It was wedged behind her side of the bed, tucked low in the gap between the wall and the nightstand. One of those soft-cover leather notebooks she used to collect, always buying more than she needed, filling the first few pages and forgetting the rest. I don't know why I reached for it. Maybe some part of me still wanted answers, even though I'd already heard enough. The first pages were harmless. Grocery lists, appointment reminders, wedding layout sketches with messy diagrams and circles around flower types, a half-written packing list for a trip I never knew she took. All of it felt old, distant, like a version of her I'd already grieved. But somewhere near the middle, her handwriting shifted. The loops got smaller, the lines more crowded. The tone changed, less practical, more restless. The dates started clustering, entries written days or even hours apart. And slowly, the truth began to take shape in ink. She wrote about distance, about feeling like a passenger in her own life, about our home being a museum of routines that no longer meant anything to her. She called me steady, said it like it was a curse. She wondered if I noticed her fading, if I could tell when her affection became mechanical. I wanted to stop reading, but I couldn't. Not because it was helping. It wasn't. It was slicing me apart in small, slow increments. One entry described how she felt after the first night with him. Not guilt, not even shock, just clarity. She wrote that it was too easy, too natural, and that scared her more than the act itself. Another page, written late at night based on the timestamp in the corner, confessed how she'd come home afterward and looked me in the eye without flinching. She said lying had become like breathing. Necessary. Automatic. As I turned the pages, I felt everything inside me clench tighter. She hadn't been confused. She hadn't been stuck in some emotional fog. She knew exactly what she was doing. And she kept doing it, with full awareness of what it meant, not just for her, but for me. One of the last pages said she couldn't leave, that she wasn't brave enough, that she was waiting for something to break, anything that would make the decision for her. She admitted she was hoping I'd figure it out, that I'd be the one to draw the line, to walk away, so she wouldn't have to carry the weight of choosing to destroy something she once swore to protect. When I closed the journal, my hands were trembling. I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel grief. I felt something colder, a kind of numb resignation that settled deep in my bones. She'd left long before she packed a bag, and I'd been loving a ghost, hoping it would come back to life. Weeks passed. I stopped counting after the first 7. The days started bleeding into each other like rain on a windshield, quiet and constant. The garage kept me sane. There was always something to fix, something to rebuild, even if it wasn't myself. The guys didn't ask questions. Mason brought extra coffee some mornings, said less, did more. It helped. Rachel never came back for the rest of her things. A couple of her friends reached out, polite, apologetic, awkward. One offered to swing by and pick up a few boxes. I left them on the porch, sealed and labeled, her name in black marker like it was just another delivery waiting for the right driver. I didn't see her again until a Saturday afternoon in June. I was at the grocery store, the same one where I first saw her with him. Funny how life loops like that. I was grabbing a 6-pack from the cooler when I saw her in the next aisle, holding a basket, looking at a jar of pasta sauce like it held answers. She saw me. Neither of us moved at first. There was no panic in her eyes. No sadness. Just recognition. Familiarity, maybe. Like passing a classmate from another lifetime. She gave the faintest nod. I gave nothing. Not a word. Not a look that invited anything. I just turned and walked away. I didn't know her as seen. I didn't know her more of me. I'd given her the best parts already, my patience, my trust, my silence. I had nothing left that she could break. That night, I drove up into the hills, the way we used to when we wanted to get away from everything. I parked at the overlook, sat on the hood of my truck, and stared out at the lights below. I thought about what love had looked like in the beginning, messy, loud, full of promise. I thought about all the ways it died, quiet, layered, deliberate, not like a storm, but like rust, slow, hidden, eating everything from the inside out. She never apologized. Not really. Not in a way that mattered. But I realized something up there, under that wide, indifferent sky. I didn't need it anymore. Sometimes closure isn't about getting answers. It's about finally deciding to stop asking questions. And that's what I did. I drove home alone. And for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel like something was missing. It felt like something had finally been put down. Something too heavy, too painful, too finished. The house was dark when I got back. Quiet. Not the lonely kind of quiet. The peaceful kind. The kind that says, "This is yours now." And I believed it.